As an immigrant filmmaker in the United States, my life changed drastically when I changed one major thing. It obviously didn't happen overnight. It formed slowly. But once it formed, it always made me feel more confident about my next move. And it was this: I stopped judging my decisions based on the results, and I started judging them by the quality of the decision itself. That shift itself made my filmmaking path make sense. And that's how I went from a zero budget short film to a 6-figure feature film. Before I get into it real quick, if you find these videos around personal brand growth, filmmaking, and creative career useful, please give it a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with the ones that actually find this kind of content beneficial. It helps more than what you think for me to push this content out and share with you guys the experience I've had the past almost 20 years of immigration, trying to become a filmmaker, trying to establish a career in creative realm. To really get into it, I need to give some context. I left Iran by myself at the age of 17 to pursue animation. I think it was one of the strongest decisions I could make as a teenager back then. I left my family and friends behind to chase something that was completely unattainable in Iran. I was raised as a Baha'i, and after Islamic revolution, Baha'is were treated as no legal standing, no access to universities, no government jobs, and no ability to openly practice their faith. So staying meant suppressing my future, and that was not an option for me. A few years after moving to America, I got deep into photography, and eventually I realized film is what's calling my name. The problem was I was good at a lot of things: drawing, photography, dancing, music, and it almost made me feel insane not knowing where to start, what to pick, and I really had a hard time committing. But ultimately, I took the advice of some of the smartest people I knew in my life and committed to focus on just filmmaking. When I made my first short film in college, my teacher told me I'm on the right path. That was extremely exciting for me, especially knowing that I was surrounded by immigrant mindset that were on survival mode and wouldn't really empower something as crazy as filmmaking. My parents included, which they had made it to America at that point. A couple of years into college, I made another short film that won awards and got nominated to go to Pacific Southwest Emmy. And of course, even at that point, my life wasn't stable yet. For years, my mom told me it was a big mistake sending me out here alone. She judged the decision based on the result. I was broke, no solid job, not great in school. I had to start a videography business that wasn't really doing good at that point. So 6 to 7 years into immigration, the result did not look good. And that's important because result can lie. The same year I made another short film called Tonic, which was one of my all-time favorites till now, and won awards and definitely gave me more clarity. I was much deeper into learning how to make films, helped out a lot of students with their thesis, and met some people in the industry. And at the end of 2017, I decided to drop out of school. And I was, I think, 28 at that point. That year, I had gone busier. I was really involved with more creative projects. And at the time I decided to drop out of school, suddenly things slowed down. 2 or 3 months of no work completely shocked my confidence. And I became curious to what the problem is and where it's coming from. And that's when I got into marketing. Understanding why good work does not create consistency without a strategy. That led me into branding, business systems, and eventually investment. All the non-conventional, almost taboo shit that filmmakers hated. I remember I would talk about how important it is to create a fan base, to have a structure, to build a system, but I would just get ignored every time. It just felt like they were not comfortable having that kind of conversations as filmmakers. So I kind of went silent for a few years, trying to figure this out on my own, which was isolating, alienating, and just really draining because I really couldn't find anyone that were like-minded just so I can, get boosted as I was figuring things out. And of course, burnout became normal because I just think burnout, it's such a normalized culture in filmmaking, it becomes really difficult for us to recognize and actually like prevent that. But anyway, I think those few years of my life did nothing but make things much more clear than ever for me. Around that time, I took a music video project, and I thought I had a solid execution plan. But I took someone else's advice that I looked up to and just completely put my own plan aside. The project definitely became much harder to execute and took way longer to finish. But a colleague in that project told me something that changed everything for me. And he told me, once you make a decision, stick to it. So you're able to track how that decision performed. Not to be a control freak, but if you're getting your ideas, your execution plans hijacked by someone else, you're never gonna know if you're actually getting better or you're just reacting to things. And that was a huge moment, and it totally made sense to me. And that was something I was really bad at. And I knew my work is gonna be tough, but whatever it takes, I really need to figure out how to protect my decisions. So I kept studying more about producing, kept working on more projects, and at some point I launched my own company, Higher Low, with a more clear voice and better direction. So at that point I made a rule for myself. I will only judge the quality of my decisions, not the results. The result comes later, the analysis comes later, but the decision itself deserves respect. So I decided to produce a short film as a producer to purely show that I can execute a zero budget project from beginning to end. So I wrote a personal story, I cast my dad, my friends, my cousin, used locations from family and friends, crew members who trusted me, the most typical zero budget filmmaker story. The experience was definitely cathartic. I got to know my dad more, and the post-production took much longer than what I thought. And at some point I completely gave up on the project. But because my dad asked me to finish it, I was like, okay, fuck it, I'll finish it just for him. Despite of the fact that I was against submitting it to film festivals, I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna give them a try. But it did not get into any of them. I think I spent about $1,000 submitting it to maybe like 7 to 8 festivals, got rejected, all of them. But the purpose of making that film was to show as a producer, I'm able to execute something even when the money is an issue or even when there's no money, just so I can prove that, okay, I am able to execute a project from beginning to end if I have the right resources. But that's where this matters, because during post-production, as I was finishing my dad's project, I got an offer to co-produce a feature film starring Michael C. Hall. The short film didn't succeed publicly, but the decision behind it gave me exactly what I needed. If I had judged that project based on the result, I totally would have called it a failure, and I would have quit the behavior that made the next opportunity possible. Most filmmakers don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they let outcomes convince them they made bad decisions. Results vary. They could go any direction that you wouldn't ever expect it to go. But decisions can be clean. Judge the decision, execute fully, analyze later, and once you get to the result, move the fuck on. Move on to the next decision. Really look at what it took for you to make that decision and what can you do to protect it better, respect it better, perform better next time, and just keep moving. So that was my take on decisions versus results. This channel focuses on personal brand and building community that actually give artists the right support. Along the way, I'm going to be sharing my journey as a filmmaker for the past 20 years of immigration. So if you're building something long term, please subscribe and leave a comment and let me know what you're trying to grow. Thank you for watching.